and welcome to today's stream. Today is the last day of the deep dive days. I know that sounds sad, but the great thing is now we're already in the making phase, and most of you who have tuned in are probably like, okay, 1 hour expert talk. I'm excited for this topic, and are willing to sacrifice 1 hour working on your projects. So we're very thankful for that. And today I will just be introducing the talk a bit. Then we will have a 1 hour expert talk like usual. You have the chance to ask questions through Slack in the meantime. You can write them in the channel, or you can also write them to me privately. And then after the talk for 10 minutes, there will be a Q&A where we are asking your questions. As always, the talk will also be recorded and you can watch it afterwards on our YouTube channel. Now, I'm excited to be introducing Jonas Körner from Deloitte. Deloitte makes an impact that matters. They're one of the leading professional service firms, and they focus not just on the basic classic tasks of auditing and consulting, but they're also a pioneer in developing innovative solutions for their customers and open up opportunities for their own talents. Their project teams are interdisciplinary and international, and it doesn't matter if you're from a business administration background or the Mint. Diversity promotes innovation through the different aspects of everyone's characters. And today, our expert speaker will be Jonas Körner, and he will be talking about the topic of how Deloitte is improving the quality of AI for clients. We are very happy to have Jonas here today. He's a data scientist at Deloitte AI and data analytics team, and was involved in the development of solutions for the AI studio that we heard about today during the opening ceremony. And he had a special focus on trustworthy AI. And before joining Deloitte, he studied the bachelor and master's in computer science at the University of Constance, and also worked as a freelance software engineer. Happy to have you, Jonas, and now handing over to you.
Related to. So, as the title says, I want to use this session to explain you how Deloitte is improving the quality of AI for clients and making it safer and more secure. Oh. So, short look on the agenda. We'll start with a short introduction of myself and Deloitte. Armin already provided a very great short introduction and took half my material already. So that should be rather short then. No, let's see. And the second one is talking a little bit about Deep Label. Deep Label is one of our AI Studio assets. That's a tool that we specially developed for solving a key problem in the domain of AI and data, that is mislabeled data. And I'll give you some insight what to look out for when dealing with large data sets, and how, especially with Deep Label, you can address issues like mislabeled data. The third point is trustworthy AI. That's one of our key topics in the AI and data analytics team, and also the AI studio. It's ensuring AI is ready to be used in the wild to meet certain quality standards and to be trusted in the end. So I'll explain you how we ensure this. Last point is how you could make an impact that matters. What options we have for you kickstarting your AI journey at Deloitte. Okay, so yeah, let's start with a short introduction of myself. I'm Jonas Körner. I'm a consultant at Deloitte Risk Advisory in the AI and data analytics team. I joined Deloitte in March last year and still in the AI and data analytics team there. prior to joining Deloitte, I studied computer science, University of Konstanz, bachelor's and master's, worked as a student assistant at the university, also as a freelance software developer, and basically developed any kind of software for local businesses. Those were Solidity smart contracts for those of you who are into blockchain, or an Android app proof of concept with geodata. So quite interesting, and various languages and frameworks I worked with. And for me, software engineering is still an important topic, and together with data science and AI, that's something I really enjoy working on, and that's what I'm also doing at Deloitte. Going beyond just data science and software engineering, what do you need for making AI systems really scalable? Well, you need, in the end, compute resources. And as all of you know, buying NVIDIA graphics cards is quite expensive. And it's way easier to rent them for a couple of hours and then just don't pay for them anymore. And that's what in the end got me into cloud engineering, because you have these amazing possibilities of being just charged on demand and get a lot of resources. And if you don't need them anymore, you don't pay for them. And that's why, despite software engineering and data science, especially in the data science domain, computer vision and trustworthy AI, I'm also really a lot working on cloud engineering and being involved in a lot of cloud engineering projects, especially on Google Cloud Platform. So there is a lot of interest in the computer science and data science domain, but beyond that, there's bouldering that really helps to relax. I'd also consider myself a maker, so I've had a 3D printer for, I think, like 4 years now, and recently got myself a lathe, so also being able to make metal parts now, so major upgrade there. And when there's time left, I enjoy to play some hours of Factorio with friends. So yeah, that's basically what I do. Next up is, what is Deloitte? And I mean, I think you gave a pretty nice and concise introduction. That Deloitte is one of the largest professional service providers on the globe. And I'll directly give to the numbers for all the data focused persons here. So we are currently at 345,000 employees worldwide. That's like a little bit more than there are people in Augsburg. And yeah, quite a large number. From those, 9,200 are in Germany. And in Germany, we have turnover of 1.55 billion euros. So turnover per revenue is also quite good. And also work on a lot of projects where we try to give back to society. And you see that on this 265 million for social engagement. And also in the AI and data science domain, we are trying to provide NGO free services that really bring them forward and also enable them to make use of AI. So this is also very important part at Deloitte. So you see, with like only 9,200 of 345,000 employees worldwide are in Germany. So there must be many in other countries, obviously. And the Deloitte network is composed of member firms from more than 150 countries around the globe. So it's, like the only one I can think of currently is North Korea, maybe. But I'm sure there are like a few tiny states where we're not present, but in most countries we're present. And it's not only that we're present there and that there are Deloittes in those countries. Deloitte itself has a very international culture. And I've worked with colleagues from the US, Japan, Greece, Israel, Belgium, Denmark, Australia, Singapore, and yeah, Spain. That's it. But I've been there for a little bit more than 1 year and worked with colleagues from many member firms all around the globe, and that's it's for me it's real fun working with colleagues from different countries and different cultures and getting to know them. So that's, from my perspective, one major point for Deloitte. Another thing is we are active in many industries. So audit is the big one, and that's where most people know Deloitte from, and that's where it all started, like many years ago. But we are also in the data science domain, pretty successful, and we're in the Gartner Magic Quadrant leader section for data and analytics service providers. So one of the leaders in this industry, and that's like a position I personally take pride on, that we achieved this, and I think that's a great place to be there and really push data science to our clients and make it happen. Okay, then let's see how all of this is composed, basically. So there's audit and assurance, which is where we come from. I'm personally from risk advisory, but there are also divisions like financial advisory, consulting, tax and legal, and the national office supporting all of those offerings, but not delivering services to clients themselves. So a little bit more about risk advisory. So those who joined the Partners Lounge event yesterday had a great discussion what risk advisory is and what it isn't. And I figured out it's hard to grasp this if you're not in the consulting industry. And let me try to break it down a little bit. So we're dealing with corporate risks. Does, like when you first stated, that like doesn't make it any easier, but there are many types of risks involved running a company. For example, if you want to deploy an AI system in a company, there is, for example, regulatory risk. Like what regulations are there involved regarding AI? There may be data privacy concerns, or some of you may have heard of the EU AI Act. That's currently only proposal, but very likely this will be reality in the near future, that companies need to comply with this regulation, and that's something we have experts for. So if a company wants to have an AI system, not sure will this be compliant with the regulations we are in, and they're turning to us, and we're basically saying, okay, you can do this, do that, need to document this maybe, and describe what process you have around certain points of your system. But there is more than regulatory risk. For example, cyber risk. Cyber risk is for many companies nowadays a major thing, because the impact that like your company getting hacked is quite devastating and has a huge impact on your business operations. So we also have experts that really address cybersecurity issues and do pen testing, for example, or also check the IT infrastructure and advise there how to improve on the current state. So I hope I gave you a somewhat clear idea what risk advisory is doing, like in many many topics we're dealing with. It's not only AI and data analytics, it's not only cyber. There's also like things like internal audit, but it's basically assisting companies in managing their risks at any level, from really management down to like people really working on those topics. Okay, let's drill one step further down within risk advisory. We have the AI Studio, and the AI Studio is a solution accelerator for enabling AI in any industry. So what does this mean? The AI Studio is built on 3 principles. So the AI Studio is a center of people who really are able to build data science applications. That's not only software engineers, that's not only people from a mathematics background, those are not only business experts, but all of those profiles mixed. And this makes it possible to quickly build AI solutions. And that's basically leads us to the second principle, which is that the AI Studio is fast. We're trying to not only show up with a couple of slides to a proposal, but also with a finished POC that the AI Studio built. And this gives us really an advantage in showing what we're capable of, what we can deliver, what we will deliver, and therefore have a hopefully increased chance of winning projects. And also not only when discussing proposals, but also if we see there are topics arising that may be relevant in the upcoming years, the AI Studio has the possibility to upfront build solutions that solve the challenges our clients have in those domains. Third one, and the most important one, is partnership. The Deloitte AI Studio is composed of member firms from many countries around the world. Just to name a few: Japan, Spain, UK, Germany. And this has 2 major advantages. So first off, you reach critical mass. Everyone contributes some resources, and you're able to build a large center of excellence with data scientists really being able to deliver first-class solutions. And the second one, we have a great network within the AI Studio community, and this really helps to pool resources, to share knowledge, and therefore gives us the option to work globally on the AI and data science domain, and not only every country for themselves. So let's head over to something we built at the AI Studio. And I imagine some of you may already have detected the problem we are facing here. For those who have not, I doubt that this is a tractor, actually. Should be rather labeled as trailer. So the issue we're dealing with is data quality. And as you may know, for machine learning models, you need good data. There's a principle of garbage in, garbage out. Only with good data, you get good models. And that's why you need to ensure your data is good if you want to have models, especially in very critical situations like autonomous driving. And one specific problem of insufficient data quality we are addressing with Deep Label is mislabeled data. Mislabeled means you have got some features, they are fine, like those images, like this one here. Everything's fine, like contrast is fine, brightness, everything's good. But the problem you're having, the labels that you want to train your models on, are incorrect. And here, for example, I think it's obvious that this is not a car. And you don't want your model trained on a data set like this, because then it would think like, oh, every trash can might be a car, and do an emergency braking in the worst case if you pass the trash bin. So yeah, like better avoid this. And the issue with those labeling huge data sets is labor intensive. That's what it all boils down to. Some of you may have worked with computer vision problems before. These data sets are massive, like we're talking about millions of images. And well, just think, if checking an image takes 2 seconds with 10 people, still then would take some time, and then like choose a realistic daily rate and calculate how much this would cost to go through all of them manually, and even then you cannot make sure that they are correct, that nobody just clicked on next all day long. So that's really an issue you need to address, and how do you solve it in the end is the question. How do you, with minimal effort, correct the incorrect labels in your data set? And that's where deep label comes in. Basically a 3-step process. First off, you take your whole data set, train a model on it, tune the hyperparameters, ensure your model is working as good as possible on the data set with the incorrect labels. Next step is to provide the model and the data set to deep label. And deep label will use the model itself to detect labels that are incorrect. So you may know that machine learning models, or especially deep neural networks, tend to give probabilities rather than fixed classes. And those are being used to find samples that are incorrectly labeled. We also got the option to choose a certain threshold when a sample should be classified as for review, because it always depends a little bit on the data set and also the uncertainty that your model is giving you. So that's up to the user to, in the end, choose how many samples to review, but user will always get the samples with the highest likelihood of being incorrect. And then it's back on the user. You get the samples, need to check them. Are these actually incorrect? Do I need to correct them? Or, oh, maybe that's correct, but it's somewhat ambiguous. So then, yeah, it's back to manual correction. Or if there is a certain systematic error within your data set, like all motorcycles being labeled as bikes or something like this, you have the option in deep label to adjust the threshold from which on classes should be automatically corrected. So you can do bulk update on systematic errors that you find. Let me show you how this looks like. So let's assume we have this image here on the right. So in your data set, it says the red bounding box contains a car. Hope you can all see that this is most likely not a car. And the suggestion that deep label gives you is, well, it's pedestrian. That's the correct answer in this case. And you can then just click on it and will be changed. If deep label is completely off and like none of those top 3 options here are the correct class, then you can still, from all the classes in the dropdown up here, select what class it actually is. Like there may be up to 100 or more than 100 classes in your data set. So that's why we have the option of giving you the most likely ones, or also if it's completely off, just select the class manually. So, and then you can see on the left, those are all the samples with a high probability of being incorrect, and you can then go through them, check them, or let me move the Teams window to see again where I'm pointing. You can here adjust from which threshold on label should be automatically corrected, and then relabel them. After going through all the samples that have a very high probability of being incorrect, you can then download the results, update your training data set, and if still required, iterate this process until you're happy with the results. But from my experience, the first iteration gives you a lot of things you have to correct, and after that it's like only a small amount. So one iteration is usually enough. Okay, then let's head over to our next topic. Yeah, perfect. So let's talk a little bit about trustworthy AI and what trustworthy AI is, and yeah, why it's especially important for us at Deloitte, and why we work on this topic. I think this sums it up pretty much what our motivation behind trustworthy AI is, and that is that artificial intelligence will have an impact on our daily lives as well as on all sectors of the economy. However, to achieve the promise of AI, we must be able to trust in its results. And this holds true not only for high-risk use cases you may think of, like credit risk, but also your simple recommender systems in web pages, because yeah, a lot of profit depends on how good your recommender system is in the end. So you better not want it to fail on Black Friday. So that's why we care about trustworthy AI and really work on this topic. Yep. Trustworthy AI is composed of six pillars, we call them. So various topics that compose to a AI that can be trusted if they are fulfilled according to a requirement given by the risk of their use case in the end. So first off is transparent and explainable. And explainability is quite an important topic in AI. Compared to classical rule-based systems, it's really hard to get why certain models made a certain decision. And for tree-based models or like random forest, for example, you may have the option to set boundaries and so on. But for neural networks, like most neural networks, you're basically lost when it comes to looking at the weights. There are explainability solutions like Lime and Shep that we also make use of, but there are also neural network architectures that have some degree of explainability built in, and those could be concepts to fulfill this pillar of transparent and explainable. Next up is fair and impartial, and I want to give you some background on what's unintended bias, what's bias that you don't want. Usually, when training a machine learning model, you feed it some features, and like it is biased against those features because that's what it should be. That's what you're training it for. But you don't want it to be biased against certain features you usually don't feed it. And those are things like gender or maybe the region the person is living in. So how do we ensure your model is not biased against properties like this? So what we do is we wire the protected features, we call them, that you don't want to have bias against. So, and what we do is provide statistical analysis on your data set and the results your model provides to ensure the bias is, or to provide you feedback what the level of bias is you have, and then if required, re-engineering your features would be needed. Next pillar is robust and reliable, and that's like one I personally have worked on especially in the AI studio. And what robust and reliable is requiring that your model is also reliable if you feed it data that it has never seen before. And we're not only talking about like generalization error. Even your validation data set usually comes from the same domain that your test data set is. But if you train a model on zebras and suddenly show it pictures of monkeys, what does it do? That's the question we're trying to answer with robust and reliable. And there are different ways we're addressing this. One is, for example, just check how sensitive is the model to noise on the data. Will it like completely change its decisions if you add some minor amount of noise? And it's very important for a model to be resilient against minor changes in features. Other thing we're checking is how easy it is to do adversarial attacks on your model. Like, would it be possible by some intended change on the features to completely change the outputs of your model? And yeah, that's what the robust and reliable pillar is responsible for, ensuring that this doesn't happen. So then there's another one which is called preserving privacy. And for preserving privacy, it's important that you don't encode information into a model that you don't want to have encoded into the model. And therefore, it's important that you anonymize data sets correctly, but you still maintain them in a way that they that you get a model that gives you reasonable outputs and that you can use. So that's like finding the best, not only trade-off, but finding a way that satisfies privacy considerations, but also does not heavily impact model performance. So safe and secure is more on the traditional cybersecurity side, but model pipelines, like from data engineering, feature engineering, model training, model deployment, and so on, are pretty high value targets for attackers. And you want to protect those especially well. You also want to ensure you have processes that protect you against data poisoning, like some people mislabeling intentionally a lot of data, for example, and then in certain cases your model provides incorrect values because it data quality issues. And that's what safe and secure is about, that you protect the whole model pipeline against attacks from even inside your organization, but also outside your organization. So last but not least is responsible and accountable. Asking a lot of questions on, is an AI system in the end providing benefit? That's one question that's sometimes overlooked. But also, who will take on responsibility if the model doesn't behave as intended, and are people informed about their data being processed by AI systems? And yeah, that's also a major topic to make sure those questions are answered in a way that, yeah, like you can have an AI system that you know who is responsible for, and that everybody is understanding that their data is being processed by the AI system. So we are a very, very technology focused company. So it's not only about building frameworks and then explaining how these frameworks drill down to certain points you have to fulfill. But we also have tools to support the trustworthy AI framework, and especially for the more quantitative pillars of the trustworthy AI framework, which are transparent and explainable, fair and impartial, and robust and reliable. We have tools that we developed in the AI Studio. AI Qualify is one that I personally worked a lot on. But for transparent and explainable, we have Lucid, our explainability solution. For fair and impartial, we have Model Guardian to detect model bias. And for robust and reliable, we have AI Qualify for stress testing your machine learning models and make sure they don't fail in weird ways. Okay, so let's look a little bit into them. Yeah, as I just said, like machine learning has or especially deep learning has the issue that you don't really know what's happening in the model. And the approach we have with all our AI Studio tools is not only providing a single value, like it's yeah, like somewhat mediocre explainable, or it's very explainable, but give you the full stack of from you get a very condensed statement how explainable your model is, but you can also drill down to the single item level. And I can show you this how this looks like for Lucid. So let's start with one single sample. Talking about like credit risk here. So one is accepting or like giving somebody a loan, and 0 is not giving him a loan. Here you can see some of the features, like many of them are label encoded, like savings accounts, checking account, but one that I hope all of you can read it, that really can see here is the duration and the credit amount, and it's negative. So what does this mean? So we have predicted 1. That means that for smaller credits, it's easier or more likely to get the credit, and also for shorter durations, more likely to get one, especially around the sample. Like if you would change only the duration of the sample, this would definitely give you an insight in which direction it would change. So that's the very detailed level you have with Lucid. And that's the coarser level, where you see for all the features how they behave for all samples. And you see like sex has a minor impact on if a loan is given, but the credit amount, for example, is a very high impact, or the age, like people at 70 usually don't get loans for large amounts of money. And this pretty much shows for the whole data set what your impact is for certain features. So we were talking about impact for features that you want to have impact. In the last sample, those weren't features you would use in a real world scenario, but it's a quite a nice sample case to use those features to showcase what Lucid is capable of. But let's think back. There was BT6, for example, in these features, and that's something like definitely don't want to make a loan decision dependent on. So that's what Model Guardian protects against, and I think it gives you more information. I'll just show you the screenshot. We start with exploratory data analysis, so you can verify all your data has been loaded correctly. Maybe also directly find some class imbalances that you have in your data, and then basically drill down for the protected feature disparity analysis, impact assessment. That has also closely related to feature importance. And then in the end, if you just want like the executive summary, just want to know what features are at risk and then work on them, just go to the key findings and you'll have a list of features that you need to check. And that's, yeah, and how big of a risk of bias there is actually quantified. But then you have a very summarized view on what these features, yeah, like how they behave. Okay, so last but not least, of the AI Studio tools that are supporting the trustworthy AI offerings is AI Qualify. And AI Qualify is more of a toolbox than a single solution, because model robustness and reliability is itself hard to quantify, but we have several approaches to quantify the robustness and reliability, and also check if there's data drift in your data, which is also a major concern when having live systems. For those of you who don't know, data drift is basically the issue. In the winter, you train a recommender system, and the recommender system finds out everyone wants to buy skis. Like And then suddenly it's summer, and the recommender system is still predicting everyone that they buy, for example, a ski helmet. And then you definitely need to retrain your model, because then people maybe want to buy like towels or flip-flops or something like this. And to detect when is the right time to retrain your model, because retraining your model is costly, that's where you need to detect if there is data drift. But let me rather show you some nice images. One metric we have within AI Qualify is called reliability. And as previously mentioned, machine learning models do not only give you, yeah, it's 0, it's 1, but they give you something, yeah, it's like very likely it's 1, so 80%. And you might be tempted to just use this as the probability, and there you are. Can directly use this probability to maybe calculate some risks based off from it. But sometimes models don't behave that way. And what we do with the reliability score is calculating if feature or if predictions that are correct have a very high likelihood given by the model, or if they are incorrect, they should have a very, very low probability given by the model. So if the model predicts 0.55 for binary classification, and then the prediction is wrong, like it wasn't 1 in the validation data set, then we say, okay, that's fine. The model wasn't really confident. If the model, however, predicted 0.99, and then it's wrong, let's say, okay, that's bad. We say that's bad because the model was very confident and it failed. So that's what we calculate with reliability and summarize in this plot. And ideally, you would have like a peak at 0 and a peak at 1. Okay, so another thing I talked about is model drift. We also have a condensed metric that gives you information if there is model drift or how bad the model drift is. But you also have the possibility to drill down to the feature level and see if certain features especially have drifted, and those you can also inspect here. Again, we summarize all the findings we have on the key findings page, so that you've got quite a compact summary of what has been found, and then you can drill down into all these sections that are offered here. Okay, and this basically concludes the trustworthy AI part. I want to give you some information what opportunities there are if you would be interested in working on topics like trustworthy AI or with the AI Studio. So first off, we've got 16 locations we were present in, and for all of the TUM persons there, we've got 3 offices in Munich, and pretty nice ones. So Munich definitely is one of our locations. Previously talked with Armin. I'm in the Stuttgart office right now, but basically office throughout Germany. Very modern office. So I've got like this 34-inch widescreen monitor in front of me, and yeah, makes work a lot easier than like tiny monitors. What also is an opportunity at Deloitte is remote working, so that you have the flexibility, a little bit depending on the project. But if there's like no external obstacle, there's often the possibility to work remote. So you're all very, very AI focused, I think. So we're very technology focused, and not only AI. For us, a large part is AI with the AI Studio, for example. But there are also other topics where we have innovation hubs that work really hands-on on certain topics and really drive these topics and try to bridge the gap between research and industry usage. So one example is like a smart factory lab where we collaborate with ServiceNow to build smart factory prototypes, or neuroscience institute where there's a lot of psychological or neuroscience experience being done, also diving into UI UX design and evaluating it with neuroscience. So quite interesting stuff, not only in the domain of AI, but also, for example, blockchain. And yeah, for AI, the AI Studio is our lighthouse there. So definitely check out our webpage on the AI Studio. It's not Deloitte only, or Deloitte delivering all these solutions alone. We have a lot of great partners we are working with. One of those is NVIDIA. We're currently partnering with, but also all the major cloud providers like Amazon, Google, Azure, but also other software companies like SAP and Salesforce. And then there are also alliances in very industry-focused areas with partners that, really specialized in some of those topics. A large part of what we do, and also of risk advisory, is digital transformation. And digital transformation is not only about moving paper to Excel. There is more that we do, and it comes from basically risk advisory based. We do a lot of risk analysis, also cyber risk, but also explore possibilities that when we are in the process of digitalization at a company, what options are there to directly not only rely for people doing some processes, how can you employ an AI for those processes, and how can you assist people? And for example, using semantic search for working with large document sets, which like people had to go to archives and be there for hours before to find the document, to really make use of NLP to find the right documents. So it's very, very wide area, this digital transformation, and many possibilities to employ AI there, especially natural language processing. So when it comes to examinations, there's not only the auditor examination that is supported by Deloitte. There are many cooperations with business schools, for example, and options to do additional examinations at business schools, or have certified or get a lawyer, for example, or specialize in some field. But those are only a few, and there's many more things when it comes to learning and developing yourself at Deloitte, and that are just a few options we have. First off, Deloitte University we have in Brussels, space designed for learning, where learning workshops are facilitated. There is the Deloitte Learning Portal, where you're basically getting in external experts or internal experts that teach colleagues on basically any topic. So like I had a presentation workshop for 2 days last year, and there's a wide variety of trainings, also not only like soft skills, but also for data science, for example. And one thing that really makes it easy is the digital learning offers we have. Like we've free access to Udemy Business. And if you're just interested in a topic like how do I use PyTest, well, check out Udemy. And there are like courses ranging from half an hour to like a week, and you gotta choose. that's the great thing about it. You can really look into any topic and have material for this. So this really helped me in some projects where client want, could come do something in this area and just get a short impression what this is all about, and this really helps to get you started in some topics and check out things you're just interested in. So yeah, the last one is learning shots. So you're providing knowledge to some colleagues, or you're getting some knowledge from colleagues. Just put together a few slides and talk about what they did on a project, how it worked out. And for me, those are the sessions that basically were the most important ones for me, because not only like getting the content, but also what the difficulties are when you actually use it. And this is where things get interesting, where you can learn a lot, because in the end, in many cases, you have to learn from mistakes. And if you also learn from the mistakes from others, well, learn more. So that's it over to the what you as a student or how you as a student could join Deloitte. So we have internships, basically any variety, like 3 to 6 months, and you'll be like a full team member in one of the teams, getting your own responsibility and being able to work on your own tasks, of course, with the support of the team. But it's not like you're just doing the boring stuff because we needed somebody for the boring stuff. You're really getting your interesting tasks and like work like a full team member. And I've worked with many interns and working students during my time, and at least I got the impression that it was fun for all of them, and I got interesting tasks, and they got treated equally as normal employees. So yeah, if you're ready to take on responsibility, then it's definitely something for you, I'd say. Also, we have the options for example, master thesis, if you're interested in that. And yeah, especially in the domain of trustworthy AI, there are many topics to explore, and where also research needs to be done and would be welcome. Also, we have the Deloitte Stars program. So after you leave Deloitte, when you've been a working student, we still stay in the Deloitte Stars network and get informed of what's going on within Deloitte. And many of our working students return as consultants. So yeah, it's great to see some of them again. Okay, so what can you do if you're like not right now looking for opportunity? I'd ask you to follow us on LinkedIn especially, but also all other social media platforms you're on, and yeah, just stay in touch. So to wrap things up, talked about what Deloitte is doing, a little bit some insight what the AI Studio is doing, especially with Deep Label. I hope I explained sufficiently what we do with trustworthy AI and what it is. And last but not least, if you're interested in joining us, we've got 2 positions posted here. But if there's any other level you're interested in, like intern or working student or master thesis, just drop an email. So, and I'm open for questions now.
Thanks for the great talk. We got a lot of questions. You did a great explanation, but I think they are more like in-depth. And we also have some personal questions. Like the first one I'm gonna start off with is somebody saying, I saw that you're a proud lathe owner. I'm more of a fan of milling myself, but that aside, is there a project that you are very proud of and you would like to share? Yes, I think he will be happy. Maybe you could explain what milling is, maybe for the viewers who are not. Okay, great. Thanks for the explanation. It also helped me out a bit. Then the other one is, I know that consultants normally have very long working hours. Does this also apply for you in the AI and data analytics team, or is it different in this case? So the work is very rewarding. And now we go a bit more into the technical questions. And I'm going to combine two of them. They're both about the Google Cloud platform you mentioned. And they're asking, you mentioned that you mainly use the Google Cloud platform. Is this because of a cost reason, that this platform is cheaper than the competitors, or does it have some extra functionality? And then a follow-up question from somebody else would be, are you also developing platform agnostic solutions, or are you tailoring it to one platform? Yeah, that's true. And now we're getting more in the deep labeling topic. As someone is asking, am I correct in understanding that deep labeling is something you use after the data is already labeled and not something that you involve in the process of labeling? Right. And another question about deep labeling. So if I would like to do my own simplified deep labeling, could I just apply my model on the training data again and then look at all the samples where the prediction and the assigned label do not match? Okay. Okay, so it's a starting point, but you have to be aware that often you might get like a wrong labels where there's no mistake. But okay. And also on the topic, someone is just asking, you showed the something called LFS scores to compare the predictions. What does this LFS mean? So is this an internal score you developed, or is this widely used in practice? Okay. Then on the topic of the unwanted bias, someone is asking, is there a framework that can automatically re-engineer my features to reduce the unwanted bias? Something like hypertuning, but for reducing the bias. Okay, so the person who asked a question, please reach out to him afterwards with LinkedIn if that's okay, and say, hey, I asked this question and I want to work on this topic. Um, okay, then on the topic of privacy, we had a lot of talks before in health tech, and we heard, okay, we have private data with the hospitals, and then they're using federated learning for it. And here they're asking, so how I understand it, federated learning operates on non-anonymized personal data sets. And how can you ensure that models like this still preserve privacy? And they say now that they got access to GPT-3, they saw if you just put the temperature to 0, you get the training data returned. Can something like this not also happen with federated learning? Okay. Um, Another question that is referencing a previous talk, they're saying we heard from Infusion that their customers wanted access to one of their tools they designed for internal use. This seems similar to AI Studio. So has it happened to you where a customer asks, hey, can we pay to get access to AI Studio? And now we have some questions from people are who might be getting started in the field of explainability, and they're asking regarding this example with the SHAP values that you showed, can the absolute SHAP values be compared between different predictions, or does, for example, a -10 in one prediction mean something completely different than a -10 in another one? On this topic with explainability, we have a question from someone because you mentioned NLP. They're working with BERT models and they're asking what libraries would you recommend to get explainability into NLP tasks with BERT? Okay. Okay. Now I'm just checking the other questions. Yes, about the data drift example, we have a question. And they're asking, in this specific case with the varying seasons, could we simply fix the data drift issue by including the season or the day of the year as a feature? Okay. So it's it could be seen as an easy fix, but other methods are more accurate and able to deal with more unexpected changes in behavior. Okay. You might just okay, avoid the worst case where in summer you're trying to sell ski tickets. Okay. Then we have more like just questions about libraries, like, okay, what library was used to visualize those SHAP and also the AUC curves, if you could recommend something there. Was Plotly. Okay. And then to the last question, they're more from a business domain and they're asking themselves, interpreting the explainability data seems to be an expert task, like analyzing those AUC curves or different. Are you making efforts to simplify this even further? Okay, great. So often if you just go on key findings, you won't even see maybe a graph. You will just see, okay, this looks like it could be wrong, and they say, okay, here's okay, great. And yeah, this was the last question we had time for today. Thank you so much for the talk and also the Q&A. And now for our participants, thank you so much for joining us in this last expert talk of the deep dive days. I hope you learned something. I'm sure that you learned something about trustworthy AI today. And now, every one of you, all the best in the making phase. And don't forget, if you have any questions, reach out to us via Slack. And if you have questions about AWS or other things, maybe ask them in the public channels so that others can also learn from it when a problem is solved. Then, all the best for making and excited to see your solutions on Sunday. And don't forget, the deadline for submission is at 11 a.m. And you can find all of the information on the public Notion pages. Thank you and happy making.
Yeah, again, best of luck, everyone, and have a great evening.